All right. It is posted in our Facebook group. Almost there. Official. We're all set. Okay. So we're just going to let that link get out there for a second, give people time to jump in here. But it's 10 a.m. That's not too bad for you, right, Rena?
No.
Yeah. Haley, our chief operations officer, lives in Arizona, and they don't abide by the daylight saving time. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. We start at 8 a.m. I think depending on if it's daylight saving time or not, she's starting at 6 a.m. But she finishes at like 2 p.m. Her day ends at like 2 p.m. So she actually loves it. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead, get started. We've been in here now for a little bit, and people can jump in and they'll watch later on as well. But welcome everybody to the July. We're over halfway through the dang year already. I was just scheduling something for September, and it was crazy to think about that. But welcome to our July Tuesday teaching, which if you're watching, you probably have seen some in the past. You know that we used to go live right there in the Facebook group, but thanks to Meta and all of their beautiful changes, fun fact, their slogan used to be move fast and break things. And
No, it didn't.
yes, it was. Look it up. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
And I had forgotten about that. Brian brought it up not too long ago. How's that for customer service? Right. and anyway, I don't think that's their slogan anymore, but they continually make changes in how we can go live in a Facebook group. And so if you are joining us, it is because you clicked the link that I put in the group. Welcome. Today's focus, as you see here, we have Rena Rinnabaum with Empowered Advisor and Michael Doherty, our very own marketing service advisor here at Shop Marketing Pros, who, fun fact, if y'all are not tired of hearing me brag about this, Michael was our service advisor when we owned a shop in North Carolina. And Mike, did you work at both locations at one point in time?
No, ma'am. Just the Apex location,
Just
the
the Apex.
Capitol Boulevard. I was not shipped off to the Capitol Boulevard location.
Okay. Well,
Is that where bad people go, or what? Shipped off?
No, I mean, I don't know. I think it was, there was operating two stores at the time. So just, we had influx of people at one store and the other store. So I think because I lived closer to the Apex shop, that's pretty much why I stayed there, or they asked me to stay there. So
yeah,
good for that. Good for that.
Yeah. But yeah, so he was our service advisor, and now, gosh, how many years later? And we didn't really talk all those years in between. We actually saw Michael. He was a service advisor at a shop. We saw him at the Worldpac STX last year and reconnected. And then, God directed all kinds of steps, and here he is with us now. So we're here to have a conversation with the two service advisor experts, the gurus. And the conversation is really going to go in the direction of helping shops and service advisors create that raving fan experience, so that when, for service advisors to really capture the essence of the biggest responsibility they have is creating that customer experience. And so going to let y'all have that whole topic and talk about it. And of course, for those watching, whether you're watching now, whether you watch it as a recording later on, drop your comments. I see Megan. I'm guessing that's Megan Deneff joining us today. But if y'all have questions, drop them in here, and we will answer those throughout the conversation. And if it's during a recording later on, we'll still answer your question via comment and come back to you. But really glad for everyone to be here. And if you know Rena, if you've taken any classes of hers, she is a wealth of information and lots of great experience, and has some really interesting perspectives on exactly the topic that we have today. So with that, Michael and Rena, thanks for being here. You guys post your questions in the comments. I'll be paying attention to that. Oh, there's Kim. But and Nick, okay, awesome. I love that y'all are from London. Very cool. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So you guys take it away. Let's talk about customer service experience with service advisors.
Well, I can start with, just recently I watched one of Carm's podcasts. I don't remember the name. I wish I had it off the top of my head, but it was over the weekend and it really got my creative juices flowing as far as perfecting service advisor processes. And the show, they were talking about the check-in process and the checkout process and how there are so many opportunities during those times for us to solidify the relationship with the customer. And one of the things that they said in this podcast, and I realize I'm just repeating what they said, but it was so powerful, is one of the guys said, and I wish I knew who it was so I could give him credit, but I don't. What he said is you whoever you are on the phone should match who you are in person. It shouldn't be like this stark difference. And what that made me think of is when you have a really friendly CSR, because that's what we hire them to do, right? Customer service representative. And you have this really friendly CSR and they take the phone call and set up this beautiful appointment. And then the customer arrives and the service advisor is totally flustered. It really you already broke trust because you had this image, the customer had an image of what the visit was going to look like. And it doesn't matter if it's a first-time customer or a long-time customer. And that was something that I was thinking about just last night when I was thinking about this topic is I hear a lot of service advisors kind of make excuses. Well, that's a long-time customer. It's like, oh, we don't need to do that. We don't need the pleasantries. We don't need we already, they're already our customer. And I just completely disagree with that. I think if anything, like our longtime customers, our loyal people, they should be the ones that we are going over the top for every time that they visit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think a lot of it too is body language, especially when they're coming into your shop, where it's the first time or it's a 10th time customer, right? Just having the right body language. And what we used to do at Peak Automotive in Apex at Kim and Brian's shop was, we would open the door for that customer coming in. And I'd walk out from behind the counter, I put someone on hold and I'd open the door for them. And I don't think there's a lot of places out there that do that. When they would come to pick up their vehicle, we would go out there and we'd get it for them when we were bringing up to the door. So you don't just say, hey, here's your key and it's over in spot 35. There's that person. No, I guarantee nobody does that for them. They're going to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Even walking them out sorry, Kim, even walking them out to their car, right? Like walking them out and making sure that the seat cover, the floor mat are gone. Like the last image that they see of the shop should be somebody smiling and making sure that they don't have any questions or, what if they start the car and the check engine light is on? The worst fear that you have as a service advisor is that face peeking back in the door after they've left. You're like, oh boy, what did we do? And, they're just dropping the seat cover and floor mat off. Hey, you guys forgot this. Or, oh, my my oil change light is still on. Now, look, quality control hopefully would have caught that. But if they didn't, I want to be the one that is right there with the customer saying, wow, let's get this taken care of. So I think there's all of these wonderful little opportunities that we have to make sure that our customers are fully taken care of.
No, I completely agree, especially, when they're coming to pick up or even drop off, make it less transactional. We know that they're there for a service and they understand that they're going to pay us for that service, but it's the experience and really doubling down on the experience part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a massive raving fan. Like it doesn't take much for me to become a loyal person with a company, but it's not quick either. You know what I mean? But once I am a loyal fan of whatever company, and I could list quite a few of them that are my go-to, I would never consider anyone else. there have been a couple, back to what you were talking about, Rena, where I could almost sense in the interaction that, you know, they would get a phone call or a text or I mean, I've had to turn it off because I didn't want to be that person. The notifications on the Apple Watch, you know, thing, just any kind of little thing I could sense where they almost had a thought inside, oh, that's Kim. I know I got her. So I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, you know, and it does send a little, I don't know, it just puts a little question mark in my head where I'm like, do they value me as much as they pretend or seem like they do? You know, you just don't want to ever have that moment between the service of, or anyone in your shop, but we're talking about the service advisors today, the service advisor and the customer, where they're maybe feeling that. You know, I think we need to view every single customer interaction as an opportunity to water the seed.
Kim, you said that you're loyal to the company, but truthfully, you're loyal to the person.
That's
Because
true.
that person has made that connection with you, and that has made you essentially loyal to the company. Because if someone, the next person that you have interaction with at that company ruins it, you're going to move on to a different company. And so we become loyal to the people. And you're right, you get this, I think, false sense of security when you are a customer service person. Like, this person is good, I got this, yep, I'm going to check this text message, I'm going to yell at somebody, I'm going to do something that I normally wouldn't do if it was a first time customer or somebody I didn't know. And I think that keeping and remembering the importance of maintaining that level of professionalism. And that's what it is. It's hard. I don't know. When I feel that little ding, it's hard for me to not look. And I'll tell
Mhm.
you that, like, I'll look at it and immediately people will say, "Oh, do you have to go?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the vibe that we're putting off. So I had this experience. I went and there is this huge outlet mall in Palm Springs. It's like an hour and a half from my house. If you're ever out there, give yourself 6 or 7 hours. I'm not kidding. It's so good. And I went there and I bought a pair of jeans. Maybe 2 or 3 days later, I got a personal email from the young man that was at the store that said, "Hey, Rena, it was nice to meet you. You know, you bought this and this pair of jeans. You know, please feel free to reach out if there's ever anything that you want. If you also want me to let you know about any sales that we're having or things that are happening." I saved the email. I'm not kidding you, because now I haven't reached out to him, but I have saved his email, and this was like 2 years ago. I
Mhm.
still have that email saved because I was so impressed. Now, I know you guys are a marketing company, so maybe I should be asking you this question, but I find that the marketing is great for lots of things, but I also think that sometimes we rely on the marketing instead of doing those personal touches,
Mhm.
meaning like the follow up, like, "Hey, is everything okay?" Actually, I don't like saying that. I don't like asking, "Is everything okay?" Because that's kind of making the assumption that it isn't.
Yeah. Right.
But I like saying, "Hi, you came in. I wanted to call and see if you had any questions. I wanted to follow up on those other things that we didn't go over. Did you have questions?" Like, I like doing that. And what I hear from advisors is, we already have marketing that does that.
Mhm.
So what's your guys' opinion on that?
Michael, what do you
My
think?
my personal take, 100% is, I mean, we've got a point of, we had point of sale system that would, deliver, 24-hour, 48-hour message or something like that. Hey, how was your experience? If it wasn't good, give us a call. I don't like that. I like keeping the personal connection. I would, especially it just builds excitement. It builds retention with your client because, after they've left, and I might call somebody 40 minutes after they've left. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we did suspension work. Do you feel the difference I felt when I drove your car? I just want to make sure that you're happy. I mean, there's not really a timestamp on bringing it to somebody's attention, or serving them, with that question of, are you happy? Not waiting, for your automated system to send that out there. I mean, get involved, be active with it. Don't, that's how you build a relationship.
Hmm.
I feel like it's a 1-2 kind of thing, you know, where I I definitely see the value and the benefit in that text message. Please write us a review, whatever it might be. But taking the personal touch, that personal connection piece out, and I totally get, because I know somebody is watching this right now going, I do not have time for that. I get it, because at peak, I was every single Friday blocking out half of my day making a phone call to every single person. Now, I was the best and the worst person to do that, because I am chatty and I will talk. One phone call that should be 5 minutes was 30 minutes. And so it wasn't long. I think we got like 60 cars a week. And I was like, I cannot do 60 phone calls every
Right.
Friday. So then I was breaking it up the next week and doing a few phone calls every single day. We did eventually, and again, that's like 20 years ago. We did eventually move it over to, we didn't have all the software programs and tools that they have now. But I forget which software we used that sent out an email, probably Constant Contact, and directed them to, fill out a form or whatever it was. But we were still making some very important phone calls. Which of your clients in that week, like Michael was probably saying, you really need to call this one, you really need to call this one. And we were just being very intentional about those touches. I think that's super important. But we're talking about essentially the customer journey here and all the different touch points there are from the first moment they experience your shop, whether it's somebody posted about you on Facebook, or they heard a conversation at the soccer field, or they went to your website, made a phone call, all the way through. Like, there are parts of that belong to the marketing, and then there's parts of it that belong to the service advisor. But I think that whole journey is critical, not to let any piece of it fall off.
And Kim, I'm with you, right? When I was a service advisor, we didn't have fancy software. I started writing service when we still were handwriting, and some of them were going off that old printer that was like, you remember?
Yes.
So everything that we did, I would handwrite. I went and I printed out our own postcards and I would handwrite on them. I
Mhm.
called our clients. And one of the things that I think that the technology makes us think that our advisors aren't as busy as they are, because
Mhm.
well, they have all of this technology. I find that the advisors with all of the technology are actually busier now than when I was an advisor, because I didn't have like fancy DVIs that I was going in, that I was editing, that I was doing all of these things. Like, I didn't have any of that. And so I find that a lot of shops assume that the technicians should be 3 technicians per 1 advisor. And my opinion is very strong on this. Now, I will say this. I have some shops that are set up differently. Not all shops run the same. But if your advisor is estimating, selling, checking in customers, doing all of the things, I don't think they should be with more than 2. And I'll tell you, my shops that have the very best customer service, they have the highest average ticket, they have the most reviews and the best reviews. They are the ones that have the ratio 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, 2 techs per 1 advisor. And I realize some shop owners are going, what? Like, how are we going to afford that? How does that even make sense? And I'll tell you, it's because the average ticket is going to go up, sales are going to go up, and the most important thing is your customer retention. You are not going to have to spend the money on constantly marketing, because you're going to create a solid clientele. Now, I'm not going to say that it's just works magically. There's a lot of work that goes into doing that, right? Like, you have to have processes. If you are going to reduce the amount of advisors per tech, then you have to have systems in place that they are making, these phone calls, that they have a full process when the customer gets there. Like Michael said, they are opening the door for the customer, calling them by name, remembering their dog, their kids, the last vacation, like all of those things have to be happening. So in my opinion, the only way that that's going to happen is if your advisor isn't running around helping 3, 4, 5 technicians. I just think it's too many.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Michael?
I've been on both sides of the coin. Having my start at the dealerships as a service advisor, and that was a bit overwhelming. And at that time, it was, we were writing on a board, like you said. We were using multiple highlighters and executing, NFL signals, double cross on 3, whatever. So, stuff like that. But yeah, I really feel like the sweet spot is 2 to 1 personally, 2 technicians to 1 service advisor. And when I was doing service advising at independent shops, it was considered, cradle to grave. So, making the appointment through, checking them out, but everything in between, and to really get that, quality experience, deliver that quality experience, and spend really more time with per client. That is the way to do it. And you're right, the ARO does go up. The retention rate is there. It's proven. Absolutely.
You've got me thinking about it internally here at Shop Marketing Pros, right? In the agency world, there's also a ratio. And we were in one coaching group, phenomenal, amazing, great. And they recommended this particular ratio. And we really feel like we've kind of learned a tremendous amount from that coaching group that we were in. And now we've moved to another one that's more specialized in, like, just like there are shops who are general shops and then there are shops who are specialty shops. So we are now a coaching group dedicated to specialty agencies. And like, we just do marketing for automotive repair shops, and the high level of customer service that is needed for those monthly recurring model agencies. We're learning that our ratio for our CSMs to clients is different, and it's not all that different from what you're describing here. So for those who are okay, so this is awesome. There you go, Rena. Nick says, "Smart Rena, write a book, please." There you go, Rena. It's out now.
Maybe someday, but the thing is I'll tell you that we're the same as you, Kim. Like, our coaches do not have 100 clients. We keep it small how many clients we have, and we do that because we want our clients, our service advisors, to be able to call us and say, I'm having a problem, I need your help. And it's the same at a shop, right? Like, if I want to be your one-stop shop, then I want you to call me for everything. I want you to call me if you get a crack in your windshield, even though I don't do windshields. I want you to call me and tell me about your tire, even though we don't do tires, but you trust me to take you to the place where you need to go. And I'm sure, Kim, you guys do the same. You guys have referrals as well. Your people trust you as well. And how are we going to be able to be there for them if your advisors don't even have time to get on the phone?
Yeah, that's right. Michael will tell you, when we had our shop, and my nickname is Queen of Connections. It's right here on the screen. I tried getting rid of that. I hated it. When you're a kid, you get a nickname you don't like. I wanted to get rid of it for so long and I couldn't. So I finally just accepted it and moved forward with it. But it's because exactly what you're saying. Back when we had our shop, and I mean, even still to this day, I'm a networker, right? I'm a connector. At heart, I know that I was born to teach, connect, and serve. That's why I am on this planet. And we would have people call the shop saying, hey, I'm about to list my house. Do y'all know a realtor? Like, stuff unrelated to the automotive world. And they were asking me, but it's because they knew we were connected and we became their resource. I moved back home to Louisiana, and somebody, my cousin, she actually called me. I can't believe this still to this day. And she was like, "Do you know an ice cream man?"
You did. You
And
did, didn't you? You did. I
I
know
did.
it.
I did. So when you can be that resource, you were talking earlier. I told y'all I'm a chatty. I mean, I shouldn't. I should just sit back and let y'all carry on. But I just have this question. You were talking earlier, Rena, about people remembering the dog, the kid, their job, whatever it might be. We have our answer because I know what we used to do, but that's just part of, like, I'm 52 and menopausal. My memory is terrible. Like, if I were a service advisor right now, I'd be walking around with a little notebook or something, but it's part of the process. How
Yeah.
are you advising service advisors to keep track of things? What's the process part of it? What are your tips for remembering that kind of stuff? Like, how are you coaching service advisors through that part?
I think that you have to rely on your software. So I know TechMetric and Shopware, they have I think it was at one point the top right corner. Megan can answer this. I'm sure she will. There you can write little notes, right? There's like car notes, customer notes, and then there's like generic notes. And up there, that's where you write, like this customer is this type of buyer. The last time they were in, they didn't buy because of this. Dog's name is Fred. They call their car Betty, right? Like that's where you keep those notes. Oh yeah, top right Shopware. Yes. And then I wanted to make a note about, so Megan did say it's like the dentist not taking new patients. I know my doctor is not taking new patients. I know that my dentist is not. And the other thing I wanted to mention about my dentist, the other day when I went in, they made me 2 exit appointments, 6 months and 1 year. That I was like, wow. So they are pushing, and I'm curious. I didn't ask her because I didn't get a chance to, but I just remember she handed it to me and she goes, "Here's your next 2 appointments, Rena." And I was like, whoa, really?
Mhm.
That is another really big factor in retention is the exit appointment. That one is huge, huge, huge. And I think advisors are nervous to do it. I'll tell you guys, when I was a service advisor, I did not like making those appointments. And so what my boss did, I tell everybody this story. What my boss did is he put a jar of toothbrushes on the counter in front of me and said, "Ask me why this is here." And he said, "If you don't want this here, you're going to have to start asking for the X appointments," because everybody would go, "Okay, I'm going to bite. What's
Ah.
this all about?" "I'm supposed to be asking you for your next appointment like they do at the dentist." And I got tired of doing it, and it forced me to do it because
Mhm.
it was more embarrassing for me to talk about the toothbrushes. But if that's what you have to do to get your advisors to ask for that appointment, it is, and like I tell advisors, it's not about getting the customer in for the next appointment and getting their money. It's about the convenience for the customer.
Hmm.
It's when your customers leave, they should have a plan. What are they doing the next time that they are here? Is
Hmm.
it just an oil change? Is it an oil change, a tire rotation? Are we looking more towards a mileage-based service? Where are we at? And you're helping them budget, you're helping them with time, you're helping them with everything. So that's going to be another really big one for me, is making sure that you are uh, getting the next appointment
Mhm.
with a smile.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't everybody talks about this dentist exit thing.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, we did it. We started doing that. Probably one of our coaches probably told us that, it was definitely a process. You had to change the process. We were changing the habits. But clients they were not upset about it. they went right along with it. And there was always that, they always had an out. They could always call and reschedule it. They could always call and change it. But it also sent the message that when they were out and about in the world and maybe they encountered a new shop or whatever, they would think, oh, I probably should try that out. But then they would think, I already have my appointment scheduled.
Mhm.
It's already in the books. I don't have to do that. And I just think it's funny to now hear that it's obviously so successful with dentists doing it for the 6 month that now they're doing it for the 12-month appointment as well. That's just bold, but amazing at
But
the same
is
time.
it? Is it like, I mean, I just think it is. It's so smart. But you're right. There was this like boldness around it where I was like, oh, you have me scheduled for, well, the next two. But, I also think about like during the summertime, a lot of our shops are booked out for a week or two. And so your good customer calls and they're like, hey, I need an oil change. And you're like, how about August 14th? And the customer's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But if you pre-scheduled it,
Yep.
right? So that's another really important factor. And I see like when shops are slower during like maybe winter months, December, January, February-ish, I'm like, if you are scheduling the next oil service appointment, now you are going to be ensuring that you guys have work. And then in the summertime, you're ensuring that you have business during the slow time. So,
Mhm.
when you see those shops that are in, I call it the wave,
Yep.
where it's like, I'm busy, I'm slow, I'm busy, I'm slow. I- If you were pre-scheduling, I don't think that you would have as much of that as you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. No doubt about it. Michael, did I cut you off?
No, no, no. I was going to say, and I'm sure it goes without saying, but not only doing the pre-scheduling, but maybe a week before their appointment, just reaching out to them to make sure that that's still going to work, because sometimes people do forget about it.
Mhm.
They may have not written it down, or they may have something came up, whatever. But just again, that personal connection, maybe a week out before their actual appointment, just a gentle nudge of, hey, just as a reminder, we have you on the schedule for. Is that still going to work for you? Because if it doesn't work, then you can fill that spot with somebody else that may need to get in sooner. But just the transparency in letting them know that you got their back, you're there for them as a reminder.
Yeah.
Rena, what do you think the fear is? Why are service advisors hesitant to do that? What are they afraid of?
It's what we talked about earlier, change. We don't like change.
Mm.
So we're doing something outside of our comfort zone. And I think it's the fear of the no. I think we all have fear of rejection. And
Yeah.
and I think it's like, if you think of it as it isn't, you're not being rejected, it's that the customer can't really commit. So I think it's just getting comfortable with the idea that it isn't about you, it's for the customer. That's what it's about. I'm not asking you for more money. I'm just saying, I know that you're busy. This time you went like 1,000 miles over on your oil service. We don't want to see that happen again. So I know you were frustrated about it. Should we just go ahead and pre-schedule this time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can phrase it as like, we recommend that we set up your 6-month checkup, to come in 6 months, so that we're able to do another, digital vehicle inspection for you, make you aware of any things that we might see going on with your vehicle, because we know you're always busy and we want to make sure that things are taken care of for you. Like you said, you're not focusing on the money part, you're focusing and conveying of taking care of them and making sure that everything's working properly with the vehicle for them, so phrasing it not as a next appointment, but a 6-month checkup, or however you want to phrase it. But again, the mental behind it of the why, them knowing why you're wanting to do that, not just they're coming in and they're paying you. There's the why of, we're looking out for you, Mr. or Mrs. Jones.
Well,
It's
you go.
it's setting up what, like, if you look at your job as a service advisor as to your job is to not only help customers what's due on their car today, but what is going to be due on their car in 6 months or in a year, then all you're doing is just saying, hey, I am helping you budget your time and your money by telling you this is what we need to do today and this is what we need to be doing in the future, and we're going to be scheduling it. One of my biggest pet peeves is when we decide that we are going to monitor something on somebody's car, right? The most common one is your car has an oil leak and we are going to monitor it. Then the customer leaves. Are you going to their house and monitoring that oil change, or like how exactly are you doing that? If
Mhm.
you don't have something on the schedule, then
You're
how
not.
are you monitoring that? You're
Mhm.
not. You're just saying that you're doing something, but you're not. And that is one of my big things, that this is your opportunity for an appointment. This is your opportunity. Like, when does your technician want to monitor it? And how is your technician going to monitor it? The technician isn't going to write down the addresses of everybody and go to their house and monitor things. So, how are
Mhm.
we doing that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're not setting anybody up for success with that, because if there's a leak, it's certainly going to get worse. And when it gets
Mhm,
worse, now the customer is like, "Well, you said you were going to monitor it.
mhm.
You weren't monitoring it." Nobody's leaving thinking, it's like we're not and the whole essence of what we're talking about today is creating a customer experience that builds trust, right?
Mhm.
And I think that we were talking a minute ago about the fear for some customers, for some service advisors, and why they're not doing this, that, or whatever. I think sometimes having difficult conversations, like the rejection, or things that might not feel good. So in your world, Rena, Michael, also, like, what about the service advisor's role in sitting back and listening to the customer when they're frustrated, when they're upset, when something doesn't go wrong? Like, it's such an incredible opportunity to build trust and to turn an unhappy customer into a loyal raving fan. Like, you can do that. Obviously, some situations they're just not going to go the way we all want them to go, but the unhappy customer, there is generally an opportunity to fix things, listen, move on, and turn it into a great review in the end. How do you address service advisors who have a hard time handling those difficult conversations?
For me personally, I think it was just years of experience and building confidence and knowing what to say, when to say it, and when not to say things.
Mm,
We have, we have two ears, one mouth. Follow
mm,
that rule. A lot more listening, but I think also, especially, full transparency. If it was something that you knew was on the shop, like not BSing the customer, like full transparency. You're right. We're going to take ownership of this. We value you. You're being heard. We're going to fix it. We're going to make it right. And if it's one of those situations where you don't know if it was something that you did as a shop, and it's just, you know, uh, I always say, like, have a conversation about it, not an argument, right? Argument doesn't equate to anything, doesn't make anything happen. But I do recall a couple of times where a customer will come in unexpectedly and they're pretty upset, and I got somebody in the lounge and I got somebody at the front counter, and I say, hey, just give me 1 second. I would walk up from behind the counter and I would walk them down the hall into another office where it's
mm.
more one-on-one.
Okay.
Some people I think just want to come in and we'll call it, use their big voice and want to be heard. Well, you can be heard using your indoor voice too. So
Mm,
let's take it on down the hall. Let's talk about it, respectfully, and let's figure out a solution. But I think just automatically just having empathy for what they got going on. And I've also found too over the years, it's not necessarily um I would say their attitude, if you would, but like 9 times out of 10, it's not you. They're so upset about something else during their day that you
mhm,
just happen to be the one that they take it out on because you told them that they're going to spend X amount of dollars on their car.
mhm.
So, like, again, having that emotional intelligence, right, as a service advisor, to really, as they're talking to you, process that information and which route do I need to take this. That's just my take on it.
Mhm.
I think also knowing when you need to take a pause.
Mm,
When you start to feel, so going back to emotional intelligence, when you are in a stressful situation, you can reduce your emotional intelligence by half. So if you're stressed, if you're anxious, your emotional intelligence can essentially go away. So a lot of us are really uncomfortable with confrontation. And so if you just stay in the confrontation and don't take a pause, you potentially are going to say or do something that you don't want to do. So knowing that it is okay, like I think it's a little easier when you're on the phone than in person. So if you're on the phone with somebody and if you are feeling really stressed, say, do you mind if I place you on a brief hold? Will I check with the service manager? Will I go ask the
Mhm.
technician? And maybe you don't even need to do any of that. Maybe you do. But what you're doing, hopefully, is you are going to give your nervous system a pause and allow it to come back, right? To, and I don't know exactly what the like medical term is, but essentially breathe,
Mhm.
bring back your emotional intelligence, lower your blood pressure, all of those things, and then come back and to be able to solve the problem. You're also giving the customer a minute to take a pause as well.
Mhm.
You know, I did recently, we had a shop that had 3 one-star reviews in a matter of a few weeks. When we went back and looked at why did these happen, what I think, my opinion, is that we didn't uncover the life cycle of the vehicle. So the customer comes in, the customer is greeted by a very lovely CSR, then a disconnected service advisor, meaning didn't meet the customer, doesn't know what anything about the car really, other than the inspection results, calls the customer and says, here is $5,000 worth of things that you need. And then the customer is now frustrated and leaves without getting any work done, or maybe even gets some work done, but feels very resentful of that work. So to me, the service advisor uncovering the life cycle is, how long have you owned it? How long do you want to own it? What do you use this vehicle for? Do you own it? Do you lease it? Asking, do you like the car? And that doesn't mean that if I know that you are going to sell the car tomorrow, then I'm not going to tell you what it needs.
Mhm.
What it means is I'm going to let you know as your service, your service advisor, your advocate, this is what you need today. These are the things you're going to need in the future. I know you said that you want to sell it tomorrow. However, I want you to know everything that the vehicle needs. So I think taking that approach is going to help reduce customer frustration, customer
Mhm.
resentment. They just know that you understand them.
Mhm.
I'm not going to not tell you. I'm just going to let you know, like, hey, I know, Kim, you said you want to keep this car for life. Here's everything. Let's break
Mhm.
it down. Let's figure out what needs to be done now and later, and we can make an appointment for it later.
You just describing it that way just brought, I was envisioning it, right? And I'm just anticipating what that would be like. And I felt the anxiety of it, but the way that you laid that out, I could see how that's just creating a sense of calm for me. Like I do not, I don't want to be a salesperson in Shop Marketing Pros. I don't want to be a salesperson at my favorite shoe store. I didn't want to have anything to do with the front counter at our shop because like one of the pieces you just said was presenting potentially possibly a big quote.
Mhm.
And I had this, we all have something in us that makes big ticket items either comfortable or not. And I don't know if it's my childhood, we were not rich. I don't know, but I had a severe lockdown block, lose my mind when it came to high tickets. And I remember, and we were a Mercedes-Benz specialty shop. We did Euro, but Brian was Mercedes-Benz diagnostic tech. That was our, main clientele. And so those things are expensive. And I remember hearing Michael present tickets, quotes to people that were thousands of dollars. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know. I mean, I'd like get tingles and like
You get sweaty.
physical, literal physical reactions. But not only is the customer possibly panicking about where am I going to get that money from, but then when you have the service advisor who's also uncomfortable with presenting there's no trust being built in that situation. So I think the way you just laid that out is probably very comforting to Michael, you never had that problem, did you? Like you were just very matter of fact. Here's what we found. I don't remember
No,
you had any issues with that.
no, ma'am. I think a lot of it was just product knowledge and being able to break things down in a non-automotive sense to people that didn't really understand automotive. And that's okay. Not everybody, I would sometimes ask people, if you had to rate your automotive knowledge on a 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, like where would you put it before we start talking about stuff on your car? And they say a 1. I'm like, okay, I got to break it down so that they understand it. But going back to what Rena was saying, like in essence, like I would, presenting an estimate to somebody, I would start off with positives first about their vehicle because they're not used to hearing positives. They're always used to hearing, here's what you need, here's how much it is. Let's start off with some good stuff. Let's start off with some good news. Let's get into your primary concern or concerns next. And then I would do what's basically called the traffic light method. Red needs attention now. Yellow is caution. Let's come up with a plan of action. And green is, you're good. But I would usually start with the green first just to kind of, start the conversation off with positives versus diving into expensive repairs. But as years built in doing service advising, I remember the first time is a Mercedes dealership and the technician came up to me. He had a S-Class in, this was around 2000, 2001. And he put the estimate down and I looked at it for front rear brakes. It was like $3,000. And I'm like,
Ooh.
did we bill in the wrong rotors? Let me check the quantities on these. And I did. I had to relieve myself for a minute and take a breath and go, man, I got to call this person and tell them this. And I approach it like I usually would. I call them, I tell them, and they're like, yeah, no problem. Go ahead and do it. When can you have it done? And it's like, okay. But again, you got to have the confidence in what you're explaining it, how you're explaining it. But again, breaking it down sometimes in a manner that they're going to understand it. And I love using analogies, especially like cabin filters. You can show a picture of a cabin filter, but no one really understands. Well, most people don't understand and say, hey, the filter that you change out in your house every couple of months, it's the same type of thing, or when you start an AC diagnostic, letting them know that just like the representative that come out to your house, the first thing they're going to do is check the Freon level. And then they're going to possibly need to do additional diagnostics. Same exact thing, breaking it down in a manner they understand. And it's always been beneficial, but I think more than not, just being transparent with them and not sugarcoating it. But again, having empathy is, you're looking at this estimate. It might be a $1,500 estimate or a $10,000 estimate. I'm not looking at the number. I'm looking at how I need and having that game plan before you call them in your head as a service advisor, right? Like really kind of going over it with yourself before you make that call, like having your plan of action and how you want to talk about this, not just literally getting the estimate, calling them and not knowing the plan of action, like coming up with how you want to present it, I think is really important too.
Like going out, talking to the technician, looking at the car yourself. I use the example. So if I was to call and say, you have an oil leak and it needs to be fixed, or if I was to call and say, I went out, I looked at it, and holy moly, there is oil from the front bumper to the back bumper. Like you are going to feel the passion, the importance in the call because I personally went out, I looked at it, I talked to the technician. So for those advisors that are technical, that can be your superpower. When I was an advisor, I had no very little technical ability, and I still sold $1 million a year in service. And I did it by just literally connecting with the person. So people buy from people that they like, that they know, that they love, that they trust. And that's like 80+% of people make their buying decision based off of the person. And so if we approach the majority of our sales with that in mind, that people are going to buy from me because they like me, know me, love me, trust me, I'm going to start with circling back to your life cycle, like I said, right? So like I know that this is what you want to be doing with your vehicle. I love what you said, Michael, about starting off with something positive. Hey, I actually, this isn't that, we do have some good news for you. This is what we found. And also knowing what the customer needs from you, not what you need to give them. So what I mean by that is if you have a bunch of like cool technical information about this repair, that doesn't mean that the customer wants to know that cool technical information. So a lot of the time, the way that I sell things is more along the lines of your vehicle needs an XYZ sensor. Do you want me to go into details about what that is and how it works, or do you want me to tell you more of how much it is and when we can get it done? And I
Mhm.
let the customer make that, yeah, tell me more about that. I
Mhm.
will open up for a conversation for them to decide what my sales approach is going to be instead of me making the decision.
Mhm.
However, I should be prepared. So I should be prepared if the customer is going to ask technical information to some degree. And I find that this is a really great tool. AI is a really great tool to use when you are like, what is an XYZ sensor and why would I want to replace it? Like it, AI can show you, tell you, find a video for you, do all of those things. And so now you have the confidence. Now, I might still want to go out and look at the car, but I can find a lot of information just on my choice of AI. So I think to kind of put that in a pretty bow, as far as when you're a service advisor and you have a big sale that you need to make, you need to be prepared. You should know the life cycle of the vehicle. If you don't know it and you're going to make a sale, it's okay to ask the life cycle before you start the sales call. Hey, this is Rena. I'm calling from XYZ Auto Repair. I wanted to talk to you about your car. Now, before we go into the inspection results, do you mind if we talk a little bit about what you're doing with the vehicle? Now, it is, in my opinion, better if you know it, because now you're going to have a little bit like, I feel like I can start the call in a way that builds trust better. However, if you don't know it, don't just dive into that call. If you dive into that call and you present several thousands of dollars worth of needs, I just feel like the customer is going to be like, I didn't even ask for any of that. Is my car even worth it? So you can prevent a lot of that just by asking these questions. So, and then also the confidence, right? Like the confidence is key. And I think every service advisor confidence is built with something different. If that makes sense, like if it's going in and listening to your sales
Mhm.
calls, if it is, and of course, like practicing, Michael, you hit the nail on the head. You should be prepared for these sales calls. You should know potentially what questions the customer is going to ask. Be prepared for the call.
You know what I love that basically both of you said and recommended, that I don't even know if this is how you meant for it to come out, but it's almost like you give the customer permission to lead the discussion when you present something, or like Michael, you said on a scale of 1 to 5, how automotive knowledgeable are you? And then Rena, you said, do you want me to go further with this? Because look, I know there are some, when I do anything automotive related, which generally is very rare because Brian Walker, does all of that. But there have been times where we were just too busy. I needed to go get something done or whatever. Or my car, the Lincoln Nautilus that I just paid off in January, blessed Jesus. In February or March, of course, the transmission started acting up. And anyway, let's not go there. Um, Let's not go there. I'm distracting my own self.
Hey, what's your life cycle with this vehicle, Kim?
Well, okay,
Yeah, right.
great question, but let's not go there.
It might have
I
changed.
just paid it off, so obviously I wanted to keep it for a while, but now I'm questioning what that is going to be like. But anyways, you know me, I'm sorry for all the service advisors, shop owners, Rena, Michael. I apologize, but I am that one who is like, my husband's a Mercedes master technician for the last 17 years. Blah, blah. You know that. So giving me the permission to say that without me having to feel like I'm like, okay, my husband knows more than you do. You know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about? There are those
Mhm.
people. Or the guy who is bringing it because he doesn't have time or he doesn't have the tools, and you give him the permission to say, yeah, I'm aware of what that is. I know what that is. I think it's just smart to open that space. Before, I think we could just keep talking. We only have really just honoring people's time. We only have a few more minutes. So just kind of giving you the last word, Rena. Is there any burning thing that you want or need to say to service advisors or shop owners that are listening? Is there like a hot topic right now? Is there a number one mistake service advisors you see are making kind of generally across the board? Like any of that? How do you want to end our time here?
I would say that the biggest thing that I would like to see more of is us just kinda getting back to basics. And I think what basics mean to me is the excuse of we send a text for that or we have an email for that. I know that there are spaces for texts and emails. I know that, but I just don't think we need to 100% rely on technology. I think people still like that human contact, that human touch, and I think that that is what giving the advisors, so my that's my message to owners and advisors, but my message to the owner would be the advisor has to have time to do that.
Mm, yeah, which goes back to your ratio idea, which I think is amazing. Michael, any last things you want to share?
I would say for the service advisors, especially like have more empathy when people are calling. Especially, I know we're having like a heat wave all across the United States. I actually got to listen to a shop call for an SMP client a couple weeks ago. He asked me to listen to it, and the service advisor, he didn't do a bad job. He asked great questions, but literally somebody called and said, "Hey, my AC is not working," and he went right into, this is the price point that we do that service for. I mean, again, have some empathy. I've been there before, or I understand what it's like. It's no fun. We can get you in as soon as possible. Like, build that connection with them. Again, make it less transactional. Make it more about the experience. That's just my take on it.
I love it. Thank you all so much. And thanks to everyone who is here today. If you're watching not live, still post your comment or your question. We love seeing that. But real quick, Rena, what does the rest of the year look for you? Are you going to any of the conferences? Where can people find you? How can I put it here and I highlighted it, but how can they get in touch and connect with you?
Yes, so anyone can email me, rena@empoweryouradvisor.com. You can go to our website, empoweryouradvisor.com. I'll be at ASTA, and that's really the only conference that I'm doing this year because that's my favorite.
Ah, all the way from California, coming all
I
the way.
know, it's why but I love North Carolina, so
Mhm.
I am excited to be there all
Well,
so
that's where Michael lives, so it's gonna be easy
Oh,
for him. He will be at ASTA with us as well, so y'all have to meet in person
yeah.
there. Um, I do want to wrap this up and just remind anyone, if you are not registered for ASTA, definitely you can go and do that. Please never change Queen of Ghana. Okay, Nick, thank you. I love that. I should highlight that one.
Mhm.
I want to invite y'all to take a peek at planwiththepros.com. This is our second year doing it. Last year it was all hush hush because we were super private. We only wanted a super small group. I know Megan is coming. Megan, I'm so excited about that. But we are going to be hosting Plan with the Pros at West Point, y'all. And our son is a cadet there. And so at the Thayer Hotel at West Point, we are hosting Plan with the Pros, 2.5 days for you shop owners to come. We are going to teach, coach, mentor, and train you how to create your 2026 full year marketing plan. You are going to create it right there We're going to oversee it, coach you. You're going to present it to the small group there, and then you'll be able to leave confident, ready to go with your whole 2026 planned out. And so we hope you will go to planwiththepros.com, take a look at that, and get registered. I will tell you, July 31st is July 29th when I'm telling you this. July 31st is the last day to sign up and be able to pay with a payment plan for like pay over a couple of months. After July 31st, you'll have to pay for the whole thing at one time. But we just wanted to make it budget friendly for people. So if you're interested, go take a look at that. And thank you all again for being here. Rena, thank you. Michael, thanks for your time as well.
Pleasure to meet you, Rena.
Yeah, you too.
And so I'm going to click end, and then I'm going to go end it in the other program as well. So everybody have a great day. And yes, Megan, I'll see you in New York, if not sooner. Love that.
Bye, Megan.